We're just hours away from our snowstorm. Let's do this. All right, so here we are. We've made it. We have an approaching snowstorm. We have a sea of Arctic air to the north of this, and it is a beast. I mean, look, the back edge of this thing is in New Mexico. Okay, when our smaller storms form, that usually sets up around Kentucky, Tennessee, and we all panic as the back edge approaches, and it's coming to an end. But this thing is going to be here to stay well into Sunday night, probably Monday morning. Now, what we have here, the low is probably right around here, right? Let me draw it out. The low is trying to form right about here, and that's going to track up this way before it hands off to that secondary low that's going to form and go out like this. However, I'm looking at SPC meso analysis, and the low's really it's not that organized yet. Maybe there's a little tiny one, but if I fast forward here, it's still, look where it is. It's there at the northern end of Georgia. I can't leave this tab up here because I'll lose the frame. But you see that little dot in the north of Georgia? It's like right here. So that's a little south and east of where the primary is supposed to form. So if this does take a track more like this, that means this could still just be a slightly offset, slightly away from the coast and keep things a little cooler. It's not really something that's guaranteed at this point. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm certainly going to be looking for that over the next 6 hours or so where this low forms, because where this stops and transfers, it definitely will have an impact on this. And they say never trust a transfer. That's rule number one. Never trust a transfer. Rule number two, never trust a phase, because it's so dynamic. Things could go both ways. It could decrease snow with a dry slot. It can enhance snow with a slightly different position. And I think we might be heading towards the latter here. So let's talk about a few more things. Let's look at some model guidance. The European model first. So the NAM model, it's just it's not doing well. It had 0 snow for Little Rock, Arkansas today, and they saw like 4 to 6 inches of snow because everything was just south of it, and that continues to be the trend. So I'm not even looking at it anymore. In looking at all the guidance, I'm kind of liking the Euro, the Canadian RGEM, and the most recent run of the HRRR. Now the HRRR, it's the high resolution rapid refresh. It's a mouthful to say. Some people call it the HRRR. I like to just call it the HRRR. But anyway, here we are at the European model, and this is like midnight, just past midnight. These are 6-hour blocks, so it's a little bit lower resolution here, but the Euro is dumping all of its snow again Sunday morning after midnight tonight through about tomorrow 10 a.m. That's when South Jersey gets all of its snow thumping here, and then it eventually works its way north. It maxes out, but by the time this ice moves in, it's really a lot of damage is done. I broke the storm into 3 parts today, right? So this is part 1. Where snow thumping for South Jersey. That's tonight, midnight through mid to late tomorrow morning, and then phase 2 is where this icing pushes into its maximum northwest extent, and that's where it is on the Euro. And then phase 3, everything kind of just winds down, and some areas go back over to just light snow showers. Maybe that puts another inch down on what you've seen so far. But this would be like Monday morning, midnight to 10 a.m. Monday morning, just some light snow activity as everything kind of tapers off. But, so phase 1 snow, phase 2 where the ice pushes in, and then phase 3 where it winds down. But when the Euro is all said and done, it's a pretty intense map here. Especially some of these totals in Jersey that fall, some of the snow that falls in Jersey before that changeover is pretty big here. I mean, you got almost 11 inches out here in like Camden, Gloucester area. You have 10 inches down to Southern Ocean County. So that's the Euro. Here's the Canadian RGEM, the second model that I like. And I like these three models because I look upstream, I compare their initialization to real radar, real satellite, and I say, okay, these three models are matching, the best. That's it's just as simple as that. And that's how I determined that the NOM was just on its own. RGEM, it's a little bit more of a shorter range. It's a short range version of the Canadian. Again, here's after midnight tomorrow morning. That's prolific snow rates down there. That's just nuking. That's like 1 to 2 inch per hour rates tomorrow morning for a good 4 to 6 hours. And the one trend is that the RGEM, the Canadian suite, has trended south and east with how far the ice makes it. So yeah, it has trended colder over the last few days. And look at that low. That low's a little bit further out here. Not as far out as we want it to be to change more of this to snow and to keep that snow sleet a little bit further south, but it is kind of getting out there on this latest run. But when this RGEM goes through, now look at these phase 3 showers here. I'll rock towards the end. 2, 3, 4. It's a decent amount of back end showers for northern Jersey there in that third phase of the storm. But when all is said and done with the RGEM here, you're kind of like the Euro. You got double-digit accumulations all the way down to almost extreme South Jersey. You have people popping 20 up here in our KABOOM zone. So again, Euro, short-range Canadian. Now let's look at the HRRR. So for the HRRR, we're not really looking at 6-hour blocks of precipitation. This is hourly. Okay, and so we can kind of rock through by the hour. So here we are just crossing into Southwest Jersey around midnight. And, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 9 or 10 hours of snowfall that starts light after midnight tonight, becomes moderate by maybe 3 to 5 a.m., and then just nukes from like 5 a.m. to pretty much noon. Was that like a 7-hour period of 1 to 2 inch an hour snowfall rates? I mean, our South Jersey areas are in trouble if that happens. And this is the latest run of the HRRR. Another thing I want to point out with the HRRR is there's a lot of Arctic air up here, and we've seen in a few cases in the past where the Arctic wall just sets up and it basically sets a screen. If you're familiar with basketball. The ice advances north, but then look, it's held right here. It stops advancing, and it keeps this entire zone in the KABOOM zone, possibly greater, before it then ultimately does advance at the tail end of the storm. But look at that. That's an incredible amount of snow for Central Jersey, for all areas really, but for North Jersey, that's wow at the HRRR. I mean, I like it when you do me like HRRR. Jeez. So when this is all said and done, let's see, let's go Winter, Kuchera. Yeah, look at the HRRR. Again, huge amounts down all the way to Southern Ocean County, all the way down past Philly, double digits, down to Philly, down to Southern Ocean County. So, these models are definitely looking a little colder tonight. And, let's go back to the event maps that were posted with today's article. So this was our snow map, and I guess we'll go, probably be easy to see white on this map. Yeah. So the A zone, there's really not much changing there. It's our jackpot zone, 12 to 18. Could it be a little more? Yeah, it could. B and C, I mean, I just talked to Bobby, and I think he put something out on Twitter. I'll underline this, locally higher amounts possible on zones B and C. And definitely would see that with B, with the latest trends in guidance, more towards the higher end. For C, though, let's use black. You'll be able to see black easier on this. For C, maybe this area overperforms the most. Right, you have that stall up the eastern side of Jersey where the mixing kind of hits that block and takes longer to get north. So I think you could definitely see the higher end range here possibly bust over. Um, but again, you have these heavy rates down here. It's not going to take much to bust that 4 to 8 down there in southeast Jersey. Honestly, if it snows the way that these models are showing, it's going to snow between about midnight tonight and 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Um, we bottom line is across the boards here for maybe for zone B, C, and E, we're feeling pretty confident in the higher end of our ranges. Um, Higher confidence in that, and we actually have some slight confidence that we're going to exceed the higher end of our ranges in B, C, and E. So it's what the snow level wants to see. A, we're just going to kind of hold course right now and say that that's about how we still feel in the 12 to 18 inch zone. So yeah, it's quite the storm unfolding. But what I want to do here is talk about precipitation types and timings, because everyone here is going to wake up tomorrow morning in a winter wonderland, and you're going to be like, oh, I thought it was going to rain and mix and ice. No, you didn't read. You didn't read the article. You didn't watch this video about how this area snows from late tonight into tomorrow morning and then changes to ice and rain tomorrow afternoon. The public seems to only remember the first form of precipitation in general. It's the weirdest phenomena that I encountered. For example, if it was supposed to be rain to snow tomorrow, and we woke up and it was raining as it should, everyone would say, "Oh, it's rain. There's no snow. Bust, bust, bust." So tomorrow, this circled area is going to wake up to a winter wonderland, and I guarantee you, people are going to be saying, "Oh, you said ice and rain. I got 8 to 12 inches of snow in my backyard." That's probably what we're going to deal with tomorrow. It's part of it. It comes with this trade. It is the only job that you can get paid to be wrong, right? So, yeah, timing here. The snow starts out in South Jersey after midnight tonight through at least 10 a.m. tomorrow, possibly as late as 1 or 2 p.m. And look, if it's still snowing hard in like this area tomorrow at 1 or 2 p.m., then you know that everybody's pretty much gonna kaboom, possibly, with the exception of maybe like extreme, like southeast Jersey, right? It'll just be like a large kaboom, just like the NAM or just like the Euro, the RGEM and the HRRR are suggesting. So back to the timing, which is what I want to drill down. Now, this is our snow map. We released 3 maps today. The snow map, this covers the total snow for the entire event, right? But again, I'm pointing out that this area sees their snow between midnight tonight and noon tomorrow versus this area who sees their snow between about 7 a.m. tomorrow and the end of the event tomorrow night. So timing and precipitation are key with this. Now let's go to our next form of precipitation, which is sleet. Now, sleet starts as a snowflake in the snowmaking zone around 10,000 feet up, 8 to 10,000 feet up. And it falls through a shallow layer of warm air and then re-enters colder air that's just above the surface. So the snowflake is able to melt into a raindrop in that shallow level and then refreeze into a ice pellet. It doesn't become a snowflake again because it's not up there in that higher zone where there's a lot more processes going on in the snowflake creation, the dendritic growth zone. It's lower level, so all it can do is the raindrop freezes into a sleet pellet, and we believe this much sleet is going to fall. Now, given the latest trends that we've seen, maybe this line only goes to here, maybe this line only goes to here, type thing. There might be some areas that don't see sleet at all in North Jersey, given the recent trends. But for the most part, this map tells the general idea of what everyone's going to see in that second phase forward of this storm, when this whole area that snowed hard in the morning turns over to sleet. And then again, how far this makes it this way, that's still the unknown. We're going to have to observe that much closer to when we're in the system. And then the final part of all of this is our are freezing rain and rain. We like to separate snow from sleet from rain, but the rain category includes both freezing rain and plain rain because it's the same form of precipitation coming down. What matters is whether or not it's landing on a surface that's less than 32 degrees or greater than 32 degrees, and that's what determines sleet versus freezing rain versus rain. So we believe this area here will change over to freezing rain, meaning plain rain falling on a frozen surface, and then areas down here, this C zone, that's going to be plain rain falling on a above freezing surface. Maybe the air temps get to like 36, 38 degrees down here. But I got news for you. If you got 10 inches of snow on the ground, your surface is not going to be that warm. Your surface is going to be the temperature of snow encased with sleet. So it's going to be kind of insulated like a cooler. And you're just going to have rain falling on a snowpack that's protected by a glaze of ice. So you're really not going to lose as much through rain washing it away. The rain's not going to wash away 10 inches of snow down here. There might be a little compaction, or maybe if 10 falls, it compacts to maybe like 7 or 8 when all is said and done. And that's going to stick around for weeks. It's not going to be cold enough to melt really anything for a long time, well into February. But again, this is the last part of this system. And again, while this is happening, you have these areas up here that are possibly seeing some back end showers as the low gets further away in the ocean and pulls that colder air down. There might still be some precipitation up here that wants to go back over to snow showers. But yeah, this is where we stand tonight. This is the final update. There comes a time where you put the models away. You start looking at radar, right? You start looking at live observations, and ultimately there comes a time where you kind of just look out the window, right? So let's clear this out and let's just go back and get a radar shot of this system. Let's just capture this as a historic snowstorm, and not so much by how much snow it drops, not so much by how strong of a blizzard it is, because this is not going to be a blizzard. You're not going to have crazy winds with this. The lows involved are very weak. And, you're not going to get 35 mile an hour sustained winds for a 3-hour period with low visibility to meet those blizzard criteria. You're not going to get that. You're going to get some general, breezy, gusty type stuff that just goes along with heavy precipitation falling, but you're not going to get any, 50, 60 mile an hour crazy blizzard type stuff. Your snow kind of just falls straight down with something like this because it's just a bunch of moisture being lifted out of the Gulf and dumped into Arctic air. I would think this is just historic because of the size of it and the impact of it. I mean, if you look at the National Weather Service, the winter warnings for this thing are like, they go all the way out to here. This is like heavy winter impact for here, where who knows how many of our 300 and some million people in the U.S. live in this zone. It includes the entire D.C. to Boston corridor through Philly, New York, Baltimore. It includes all these populated cities. It's just a massive impact event. It is a massive size storm. And it's a very cold storm. For those reasons, it's going to be remembered. But so as far as, this kind of concludes the schedule I laid out on Monday as far as the articles during the day, videos at night. What I like to do now that we have, radar observations is move more towards the vertical format reels that I make right from my phone using the ZoneWatch app. Now, this is ZoneWatch radar here. I use ZoneWatch app on my phone. I absolutely love it. It's great. And the fact that I can record myself talking while the radar animation is playing allows me to get a lot of my points through about what's going on. So that's what I'm probably going to transition to. When I wake up tomorrow morning, I'll start a live observation reel where I explain what's going on. And then, of course, you can tell me how much snow has fallen, where you are generally, and that helps everybody know what's going on. So let's summarize one more time. Snow tomorrow for South Jersey, tomorrow morning. Sleet to freezing rain and rain for South Jersey, tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow night. For North Jersey, a KABOOM warning is in effect. You are likely going to exceed 12 inches of snow along I-78 and above, and that might push down a little further into central and even southern Jersey. I'm really watching that. Like Ocean County, northern Ocean County right now has me very interested in that area possibly kabooming. We'll see. But the KABOOM warning is for I-78 and north. However, the entire state, with maybe the exception of extreme South Jersey, is under a KABOOM watch still. I wouldn't wear the hoodie if it wasn't. So everybody have a great rest of your Saturday night here, and please be safe.